As the great mad titan Thanos once said, I am inevitable. And that is India at the moment, as they were ruthless, dominant, excellent on their way to destroying England by 68 runs in the second semi-final today. England had no answer for the almost perfect India today, as they booked themselves a place in another ICC final. My name is Munter, and this is the Maximum Cricket Podcast, powered by Dominos. On today's show, we discuss the reasons why India were just too strong for England today. Did India have an unfair advantage knowing where the semi-final was going to be played out, or were they just a superior side? We look back at the last 4 times India have reached an ICC final and rank them from least to worst in terms of choking. We also review England's World Cup campaign while also predicting the final, which India will be heavy favourites yet again for. The thing about India being Thanos and being inevitable is Thanos lost after saying he was inevitable.
2 years ago, it was England who gave India a proper hammering. Today, it's India's chance, an opportunity to return the compliment. This is a proper drubbing.
Brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Okay, just a quick summary of the game. England chose to field, and obviously that worked out poorly. India made 171 for 7, which definitely felt like more than enough. There was a period where India were going really well. Rohit made 57 off 39. Sky made 47 off 36. India were looking at like 180, 190. England, to their credit, pushed it back. Rashid, he was outstanding. He was the X-Factor stuff. 125 off 4. He got the important wicket of Rohit. Still 171 on that deck. It was spinning a lot. It looked hard to play. That felt like a lot. But England, 26 for none off 3. Looking like a chance. Butler was looking good. But then it was all downhill. Axar, he took 3 wickets in the first 7 overs. Bumrah, he bamboozled the hell out of Salt. It was just an unbelievable wee slow ball. Salt didn't look like he knew what happened to him. Still doesn't probably. 46 for 4 after 7 overs. That's game over, and there's just no coming back from there. Chasing 170 on. Kuldeep finished it off 3 for 19 off 4. England all out for a paltry 103. It wasn't really close in the end, but everyone wants to know why. What were the reasons why India won this game? I've got a few thoughts. I've got sort of 3 reasons. I want to start with Rohit. I want to start with the difference between this Rohit and the 2022 Rohit. 57 off 39 or whatever it was on a really difficult pitch. He really set the standard. He took England's bowlers on. And you want to compare that to 2022 on probably a flatter wicket at Adelaide. They made a similar score. It obviously got chased down in about 0.5 overs. Rohit only went at a run a ball. You made about 27 off 20 out, something like that. It was really circumspect, really weird. And ever since that moment, he's really there's been a shift in mentality. It was similar in the World Cup last year. They obviously didn't get it done for reasons we'll probably, that'll come up this week, the next couple of days. But he really is sort of allowing India to release the shackles. And I think he is key, because he hasn't actually been that good this World Cup. I think he obviously had a really good innings against Australia. But before that, really not a lot doing for Rohit. So for him to just continue that mindset as the stakes get higher, I think that's huge. And you talk about, people are going to talk about Kohli. His form is obviously, not great, which he's got a little bit of leeway. He's got a few credits in the bank, that's fair to say, from the King Kohli, averaging 85 in a T20 World Cup before this edition. But I think he sort of mentioned that, he'll come right. His intent's good. He looks good. He probably score runs in the final. That tells me that this is a message to everyone to buy in. And I think if you've got Rohit and you've got Kohli, the two most experienced, the 2 leading runs getters in T20 international cricket, buying in, and if Kohli is he's continuing to buy in and it's not working, I think other people continue on that path, which I think is good. A lot of talk on the pitch. You could not have handpicked a better pitch to suit India. The facts are the facts. They still got 170, which England's bowling, I've talked in length, and I'll talk about it later on when we review England. It's just not as good as the other three semi-finalists, and India sort of made the most of that. Why England felt they need to bowl first, I think, was a genuine mistake. I think it's been sort of the clear. It actually is like you can bowl first, but if you don't skittle them, you're in a bit of trouble because it's not getting any easier, especially in a day game. Like there was no way that was going to get easier to bat on. So the pressure just was too much. So if they could have batted first and got 150 or something like that, I mean, that's a little bit more pressure on India. Speaking like of the pitch, obviously India was well aware of where they were going to play the semi-final. The big question is, did India have an advantage knowing where the semi-final was going to be played weeks before? Short answer, yeah, obviously. Yeah, okay, that is a slight advantage for sure. Is that why England lost? No, it's not. India's just a better team all round. My issue around this criticism is I think it's hurting the players, because what I don't want to say is India's just demolished England, the defending champions. They've been better in all facets of the game, and people want to talk about, it was unfair. They knew where the semi-final was played, and it's like, I understand that, I get that, but it's like, can we not just appreciate like this team's good? It's a really good team, good cricket team. They play good cricket. They tick all the boxes. They got some of the best players in the world. They're just a better side, and I would prefer them being in the final than England, because I don't think they deserve to. They're not really deserved to be there. Whereas India are unbeaten, played in New York, played everywhere. It doesn't matter. They deserve to be in there. Would it hurt the ICC to just run a proper tournament and just have things down the middle instead of just treating these tournaments just as, how can we get as much money as possible and just be the least subtle about it? Like, let's Pakistan, India, they're in the same pool yet again. That's so random. India, let's make sure they play in the right times. So this semi-final is going to be there. So, everyone's tunes in. It's like, do we need to do that? Like, I mean, let's have a World Cup every 6 months because we need the money. It's because we fucked up our game, because we make no money on bilaterals. That's another story. I don't know. Would it hurt? Just a little bit of integrity. India won because they are just better than England. Full stop. The question now moves for India. Can they win the big one? Can they win the final? Because the question yesterday was South Africa in semi-finals, and they overcame that hurdle, and that's great for them. We talked about, are there combos that can rival that? One we didn't mention was India in finals, because that's starting to get up there. Obviously, it's not Philly cheesesteak and a Domino's pizza for only $13, because you've got the number one sandwich on the planet. You're combining with the number one pizza in the world, Domino's. That's just a match made in heaven, Domino's, like we've said before, they are the Coca-Cola of the pizza industry. They are the Nike of the running shoe. McDonald's of the fast food chain. They are the epitome. They are like India and just looking good in games of cricket that don't matter. That's what, they are, just two peas in a pod. Pizza, Domino's, India, looking good in round robin games, group games, semi-finals. My point is, and got to promote Domino's here, but Domino's, they get pizzas. They are when you think of pizzas, you think of Domino's. You think of Domino's, you think of pizzas. So when they decide to bring back the Philly cheesesteak pizza for only $13, it's because they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. It's good stuff. It's a good combo. Tell them I sent you. Okay, India and finals. Okay, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to look back at the history of India in knockout finals since they won the 2013 Champions Trophy, because there's been 4 occasions since that, and I wanted to revisit those 4 finals and sort of rank them from the biggest choke, also the least chokeable match. I don't think it's a word, but you know what I mean, to like just the biggest choke. And just so that if India do get up, they really do appreciate overcoming this choking tag, if you will. It is going to be a final between two chokers. So the 4 finals they were involved in: the 2017 Champions Trophy, losing to Pakistan by 180 runs. That is a walloping. Pakistan 338 for 4, India all out for 158. That's a tough one. Couple of Test championships, World Test Championship final in 2021. Massive day for a Kiwi fan. They lost to New Zealand by 8 wickets. It was closer than that, I think. India 217 and 170. New Zealand 249, and then chasing 139. A very nervous chase from New Zealand, 140 for 2. Sounds convincing, but as a fan watching that was anything but. 2023 World Test Championship, smashed by Australia by 209 runs. Australia 469 and 270 for 8 declared. India 296 and 234, just not really in that contest at all. And the same year, 2023 ODI World Cup final, they lost to Australia by 6 wickets. India 240, and then Australia chased that down convincingly, 241 for 4. Now, as I said, if we are ranking these in terms of most disappointing to least disappointing, let's start at the bottom. I think I'll put the 2 World Test Championships together, because I think for those 2 years you could argue that India were potentially the best overall Test side in the world. However, the fact that both of these tests were in England, Australia and New Zealand were, in my opinion, they were just better sides, all-round teams in those conditions. Both occasions, I think, New Zealand were just at the peak of their powers at that point. We're going to look back at that era as just like, it was sort of like the perfect blending of like when you got Ross Taylor sort of just towards the end, but then you got Devon Conway coming, you got Jameson there, you got Bolt Southey. It was just a perfect storm for India. It was played in seamer-friendly conditions, combined with Australia, who were, again, they were at the peak of their powers. The Hazelwood, Cummins, Stark, Lyon, all these guys just in a culmination, again, in conditions that suited both sides as opposed to India. I don't think that's a choke. I think looking back, I think the 2 best sides won those tests, and probably India just unfortunate that it's in England against 2 good sides. The Champions Trophy versus Pakistan. I mean, if you lose to Pakistan as an Indian fan, then it's going to rank high. It just is. That's sometimes when you get blown away, it can make it a little easier. Maybe, I don't know. If it's Pakistan, that sucks though. It's somewhat of a choke because they just didn't turn up. But I think the reality is Pakistan was a very good side in 2017. But there's a bit, the choker meter's up there, because not turning up or getting smashed like that in a big game, there's an element to choking. I mean, obviously the World Cup final of Australia, that is without doubt one of the biggest choke jobs or possum in the headlights jobs in the history of sport. A home World Cup, unbeaten leading up into that contest. This and the 2022 semi against England were the epitome of a tired regime where they just played too safe. I mean, they could have played that game 10 times, and that was the one time Australia would have won. I mean, it's pretty much like the Avengers Endgame, where you've got the one time in 14 million tries that the Avengers are trying to beat Thanos, and this is the one time Australia wins, because everything went wrong for India, and it would be a little bit of not justice, but like it would probably make a lot of those players feel a little bit better if they did get up in this World Cup, sort of rest some of those demons, because that honestly is the single worst choke ever. Like, there's no way they should have lost that game. No way. They got outplayed by Australia in conditions that just should have suited them, and it's just a better side all round. So that's the history that India is bringing into this final. that's kind of why I think, if we're going to predict this final, that's kind of why I believe that India is going to win this, because they've sort of realised the old way isn't working. They don't play within themselves as they used to. We talked about Rohit and his change in intent, and I think that's filtering down the side. I think it's a similar setup to Afghanistan to South Africa in terms of where your goalposts are. Whereas I think, South Africa, there's a good chance where they've kind of gone through the ceiling that is a semi-final. Now it's sort of like, we might be just happy to be here. Whereas, it's just business as usual. Like nothing. If India don't, India have been the favourite for every tournament since I probably was born. They are due. They are hungry, and I think there's a good chance that they win. Having said that, South Africa, they are unbeaten, and they are playing really, really good cricket. They've been doing that for 2 years now. I think if there's a blueprint on how they win, this is it. India is not a perfect side. I don't think there is. There is a couple of chinks. Kohli, Dubey, and Jadeja have essentially just been passages in this side. I think South Africa's attack is better than India's. I think it's got more X factor. I think India has more versatility, if you want to argue that. I think South Africa needs to bat first, and if they can not be just blown away by Bumrah and Kuldeep, and just have wickets in the shed, they've got power. Clarkson's he's probably the best player of spin in the world. David Miller can tear it, can do some damage at the death. And then if they can get a score together, then South Africa's attack can just be, it's good enough to just put India under some real pressure. 150, 160. Let's see if India can just continue to be carefree when the stakes are high, when the lights are brightest, when the pressure's on. Can they do it? We'll find out. Let's talk about England, because this is the end of their World Cup. Let's review their World Cup. Let's give them a report. They played 8 games. They won 4. They lost 3. They had 1 no result, which Scotland were 90 for none. Highlights: the performance versus the West Indies. It was perfect performance. Bowling attack clicked. They suffocated Windies batters. Windies batters were pretty poor. That's another story. And then England, they're really good at mowing down a small total. And then they get a small total, they'll mow it down. You get a good total, that's another story. And then I put this here, but I think, beating Oman in 3 overs, that's just funny. That's funny stuff. Low lights, smashed by Australia, smashed by India. The high performers, Joss Butler and Phil Salt, they were exceptional at the top. Both striking at 158. And then, Salt averaging 38. Butler 42, Harry Brook averaging 73, striking at 158. Special stuff from those 3. 2 best bowlers by far: Rashid 10 wickets at 18, Conrad of 6, Archer 10 at 19, Conrad at 7. But that was kind of it for the bowling, because especially with the seam attacks, the low performers, Curran, Wood, and Topley, they took 8 wickets combined. Curran and Wood averaged close to 40, with Curran going at 10s. Topley averaged he took 1 wicket, averaging 60. And then Lanning Livingston, I just 3 wickets at 28 in 8 games, 72 runs at 18. I swear we've been gaslit as public into just thinking he's an elite T20 player, because he bowls a bit of off spin, bowls a bit of leg spin, hits a big ball, just good on paper. But I cannot remember a single innings under pressure from him, a time where he's dug England out of a hole in a high-stakes game. He's just a cherry on the cake. He's a really good flat-track bully. He looks good on paper. He ticks a lot of boxes, but you never see any sort of batsmanship, any sort of anything other than just some couple of big sixes here and there. England's expectation, they were supposed to be right there with India and other favourites. Australia, semi-finals, finals stuff. My report is I'm giving them a C+, which is a pass. It's a pass because you make a semi, that's a pass. But if you dig a little deeper, you're going to realise they had 4 games against good teams: India, West Indies, South Africa, Australia. They lost 3 out of those 4 games. They beat Namibia, Oman, USA, and they were getting pumped by Scotland. That is, without doubt, one of the easiest runs to the semis in the history of the sport. They had the advantage of playing those teams at the end of the draw, so they knew what they had to. They knew they had to pump them and boost their run rate. It wasn't just a game out of the blue. That's a distinct advantage in my book. I think it's just time for a reboot for England. I think they've had a run. This has been a long era. 2016 to 2024, 8 years, pretty much on top of white ball cricket. I think there's a new crop coming through. They need a new mindset. I think Joss Buttler, as good a player as he is, he's just kind of like, he's the Diet Coke to Owen Morgan's Coca-Cola. He's tried to continue on the same sort of methods. He hasn't really changed anything and just sort of died. They've sort of died a slow death, similar to the Black Caps, really. They're still a good side. They can still compete on any given day, particularly with the bat. There's power all over the place. But, it's time for a new sort of a refreshness, a reboot, if you will. And with that, speaking of reboot, it's time to regroup before the big final. We've got 2 unbeaten teams. Let's hope, as fans of the game, it's a close game. And I ask you, if you enjoyed the show, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you all after the final.